Clostridium tetani. This is a gram-positive, spore-forming, obligate anaerobic rod. We need to know that in the spores, it contains diclonic acid. This is a very hardy structure and allows the spores to survive in extreme conditions. The only way we can kill a spore is by autoclaving it, and that is at 121 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes to kill the spores. I like to use this mnemonic: Big Mama anaerobes like to ride cabs. I don't know if it makes sense to you, but I just made this up and it works for me. The C stands for Clostridium melanocepticus and difficile, A for actinomyces, B for Bacteroides fragilis, S for strep bovis. Now, you need to know that the Clostridium tetani produces disease by the production of a protein axotoxin, not by the bacterial invasion of tissue. The toxin binds to receptors on the presynaptic membrane of the motor neurons. From there, the toxin migrates by the retrograde axonal transport system to the cell bodies of these neurons and next to the spinal cord and brainstem. Release of the inhibitory neurotransmitters glycine and GABA from the inhibitory neurons is blocked. The suppression of inhibitory nerve function results in an increased activation of nerves innervating muscles, causing muscle spasm, spastic paralysis, and hyperreflexia. Patients with tetanus have spastic muscle contractions, difficulty opening the jaw, known as lockjaw, a characteristic smilocoriasis sardonicus, and contraction of back muscle resulting in backward arching known as obstetonus. Patients are extremely irritable and develop tetanic seizures brought about by violent, painful muscle contractions following minor stimuli such as noise. You need to know that the Ronshaw cells in the spinal cord are the ones that are being inhibited. And you also know that the tetanospasmin acts as a protease and cleaves snare proteins. This is very important. There's test questions on this. This is a little depiction just so you kind of get the idea of what is happening. The illness caused by Clostridium tetani can be prevented by immunization with a childhood series and a booster immunization every 10 years thereafter in adulthood. An immunized mother will be able to pass on IgG through the placenta to the fetus and provide passive immunity against neonatal tetanus until child receives the first tetanus vaccination at 2 months of age. Neonatal tetanus usually results from Clostridium tetani colonization of the umbilical stump. It's important to know that in some cultures and some countries, after the umbilical cord has been cut, it is traditional to rub some dirt onto the stump. This causes an introduction of the spores, hence leading to tetanus if the mother wasn't immunized. You also need to know this important chart here, and this has many questions on it. The wound management of tetanus prophylaxis. There's four ways this can be tested, or four ways they can ask you this question. So let's go over it. First, a patient comes in, he was working in the backyard, cut himself. That is going to be a dirty wound. So that's going to be all other. So we're going to say that is a dirty wound. And then you ask the patient if the patient has received a previous dose of tetanus toxoid. If they say no or less than 3 or unknown, they are not sure, what you're going to do is give them the tetanus toxoid and you are going to give them the human tetanus immunoglobulin. That's scenario number one. Now, patient comes in, same patient, maybe, or a different patient was working in the backyard, cut himself, that's going to be a dirty wound. Now you ask the patient if they have a previous dose of tetanus toxoid. And if they say yes, is 3 or more, then you only give them the tetanus toxoid containing vaccine if it's been greater than 5 years. All right, that covers two possibilities of the four they can ask you. Let's go over the other possibilities. Patient was in the kitchen, cut himself with a kitchen knife. No matter how dirty your kitchen is, that's going to be a clean wound. All right, we're going to say that's a clean wound. Now you ask the patient if they've been vaccinated, and if they say they're not sure or it's less than 3, then you give them the tetanus toxoid containing vaccine. Then you got another patient. Patient comes in, cut himself in the kitchen. You ask the patient if they have a previous dose of tetanus toxoid or have they been vaccinated. If they say yes and it's 3 or more doses, then you only vaccinate them if it's been greater than 10 years. So there's only 4 ways they can ask you this question. That's it. And you need to know this by heart because they will ask you a question. This, I know it sounds a little tricky. Go over it again. There's only 4 possible scenarios they can test you by. So go over it again and again. You also want to make sure you clean the wound. And if they're having spasms, you give them diazepam for the spasms.